really well run, and it's just the perfect size. Like I've gotten to have like quality time, like that guest on that talk show that's like, no, but I have another thing. I just don't ever give the mic away, Montel. Yeah. Don't let them hold it. Yeah, but I've gotten to have like really nice quality time with each guest that's come to the table. A lot of times I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I get everybody in, and I hate to rush people when they're spending a bunch of money. So.
I like both sizes. The big ones are really cool, but the small ones, with everybody that comes up to my table, I try to make a little bubble with me and them in it just for a minute, try to get to know everybody. And the nice thing with the smaller one is the bubble can last a little longer before it blows up in your face.
And you get to know, learn people's names, which I love by the end, and you get to actually meet people, and you're just like, oh, and there's Christine, and there's Chris, and there's Max, and there are people that you remember, and you see them on Twitter, or people come up and introduce themselves that have been following you, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're blah, 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 that's awesome, and then you put a face to a handle, and it's an amazing thing.
What's my name?
Exactly.
I like bar mitzvahs. I like bar mitzvahs.
Tony, man, it ain't the size. It ain't about the size.
Have you seen us stand next to each other? I have a question for McGlenn and Dante Bosco. So, both of you have been in anime, or Dante's case, more of an American TV show, that have gone live-action remakes. Are you annoyed? Do you get constant questions about, like, what do you think of the remake? And does that annoy you? Does it feed you?
I think anything that can expand the world for me, Ghost in the Shell is great. And if people see the movie for the first time and say, wait a minute, this was based on another movie and a whole series and everything else and video games, and then I say expand our world. There's nothing wrong with that,
But you know what, like after when they change like really important things, but like you can't do that to a whole fandom. Like you're invested. You can't just change that.
What did you think of the last Airbender?
Oh no. I will find a way in. I find a way.
Were you mad that your character did not get any screen time?
Yes, and it was just awful. The whole movie was terrible.
Saw it?
Yeah,
you watched it?
I tried.
Flash your own work.
I didn't pay.
Ray, did you watch Avatar?
Not in the theater. Not in the theater.
Okay.
I have a question for Chris, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
You look so good.
So, you have been on, I'm sorry, my name is Cece Ricky.
Hi,
I'm from
Cece.
Seth Network.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. So my question for you is, you've done a variety of shows from like Iconic, as the Cosby Show in a Different World, all the way down to, Kids Next Door, and also Drawn Together, which I low-key love.
Defoxy,
There's
baby.
a lot of
Everybody likes Defoxy.
So how do you embody everything that makes you geek and your black girl magic so seamlessly? And then my follow-up question. Well, I do it like this. And then my question for the rest of you is, what brings you to this geek realm? Like, what was it? What reawoken that? What reawoken that child inside of you? Was it anime? Was it a particular show? Was it Power Rangers? Like, what is it that made you realize that this is where you belong?
You realize you asked a question.
So three first.
You asked a question to 11 people. We're going to be here till 8 o'clock. You got it directly.
Like elevator speech.
Okay, well, I'll say for me, my father, Don Franks, he's no longer with us. He was a voiceover actor and an avid comic book collector. I did not start school till the 4th grade. I learned to read while reading comic books. I first fell in love with the Marvel Classics. I loved them so much I got 7 editions at a time, bound in leather. Then I fell in love with Underdog. Then I fell in love with Plastic Man. Then I fell in love with Red Sonja. Then I became obsessed with ElfQuest. And as far as seamlessly, and I got seams everywhere, blending my geekdom, I do like what you said about being a woman of color, because I ain't special. There are so many little brown girls that love anime, cartoons, comic books, rock and roll. We are the original freaks. And I'll tell you something, we just don't get seen. So when someone like me comes along, it's like, holy shit, it's a black girl that loves cartoons. Or holy shit, it's a black girl that loves rock and roll, or a black chick that loves comics. And the truth is, all my girls love that. It's just, the sad thing is, we just don't get seen as that, and we don't get catered to as that. They don't make stuff for us because they just don't know we're out there. If you're not a little white boy, you're not allowed to like this shit, and it ain't the fucking truth. So, I don't think I'm special, I don't blend anything, I'm just the lucky one who got seen. That's it.
Take your eye out.
Is it 20? Is it 20?
Mind if I go next? Cool. This one is specifically for Steve and Mary. What's it like, knowing that Star Wars Rebels is ending? You guys have worked on it for a long time, and I guess what are your feelings on it?
Thanks for the bummer.
As long as we kill all those rebel scum, I'm fine.
No, it's always tough when a show that you love, and we've been Star Wars fans since '77. Not necessarily together, but knowing that, it's very tough, especially because we get used to working with the friends that we love the people in the cast, and all the creators from Lucasfilm and Disney who give us that opportunity. But the way that we resolve that is after 4 seasons of it, Dave Filoni and the entire writing team at Lucasfilm feels like this is the ending that they want. And they didn't get to do that in Clone Wars. And our job as voice actors is really to fulfill their vision. That's all we are. We're just a vehicle to fulfill their vision. And we get to do that in 4 seasons. And yeah, we're out of a job and that sucks. But on the other hand, nothing in Star Wars ever dies. So we're going forever and we're part of the canon now. So we have that. And,
You asked what brings our geek on, what brings my nerd on, and it's always been Star Wars, always. I was a reluctant Star Wars, I didn't want to see it, I was like, what is this stupid movie about a space octopus pulling some guy down in a trash, what? I don't want to see this movie, and it changed my life. John Williams changed my life, George Lucas changed my life, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, all of it. It's all great storytelling, it's all Joseph Campbell based, which is all Greek mythology, it's the history of what we are as a species. So I think all nerddom and everything that resonates in our beautiful nerd society is all based on who we are as a species and trying to figure out who we are and where we're going. And for me, it was always Star Wars and Steven Spielberg, E.T., and Lord of the Rings for Mother's Day.
Behind the scenes, George Lucas with those TIE fighters and the Death Star. When you saw there was a behind the scenes, I don't know whether it was a special or something like that. But when I saw him do that, and I think I saw that before I saw the movie, I was like, I have to do that. That is the coolest thing in the world. And all of a sudden there was. Yeah, I don't know. And there's a direct line from that moment when I'm like 8 years old, watching George Lucas blow up stuff, with the camera kind of going over the to Lord of the Rings and watching miniatures that were built there, and just thinking that. And somewhere in the middle, me in the backyard blowing stuff up, with my Super 8 camera, and it's like
part of that technology that was birthed from all of this, So you got to imagine all the green screen stuff. I'm not sure how much you actually did for it.
Lots, we did lots, but it was sort of. But my point is like there's no difference in my mind between me with my Super 8 camera and Peter Jackson with $300 million.
Yeah.
It's the same. Like you're trying to get it to look just right.
he would agree with you.
I have a question for Sarah.
Yes.
You are now the new voice of Ash Ketchum, right?
Not so new. It's been
Well,
like
I
11
mean,
years.
Good
question.
Now, did you, before taking on the role, did you meet the former voice of Ash Ketchum, Veronica Taylor? Did she give you any, sound advice for voicing the character? And how was it like voicing such an iconic character in anime?
Well, I hadn't met Veronica Taylor before I started. I only met her maybe part of my childhood, just like I'm part of some of your childhood. What's it like to voice an iconic character? It's scary. Because the fans are so married to what the character used to sound like and to who he is and how he was embodied, performed by Veronica. So that was daunting.
Did you feel like a bit of a role and still we're having to take on the role that was
Yeah.
somebody else?
Yeah, no, definitely. I still feel the weight of the world because I have to continue. I like to keep improving, but at least staying on par with myself. Yeah.
I have a question for British Chapman. So you starred in 30 Rock, which is one of the more iconic comedy shows, and it's almost like comedy is a guilty pleasure of the geek community and as well as the mainstream community. So how do you feel about now that you're transitioning, guest starring in shows like The Blacklist, things that are a little bit more like sci-fi, fantasy-esque, and do you enjoy the comedy or the serious roles, or how are you feeling right now?
I enjoy bringing stuff to life, like period. The only thing that's different, you get spoiled working on a show like 30 Rock because we spend so much time together and we're so close as a family. And then when you do guest star on another show, they just tell you to stand over there and it's not the same. You miss your friends and your family because you watch baby being born, your deaths, funeral, you've been through it all together. And then when you are on another show, it's just not the same because, like I said, they tell you to stand over there and just wait till your part is done. You know, it's not a family. It's more work when you go to another show.
Without talking that then, what was it like working with Tracy Morgan and the scenes with you and Tom? Like, were those improv or did they write those for you? Because I noticed like as seasons progressed, you guys got more and more scenes and it got hilarious and more hilarious. I love the exchanges between you and Tom. So did they give you free range to like make the characters the way you wanted to make them, or did they write them in a certain way?
Well, we had to say exactly what was written. And then once we got that out the way, they would let us play around and some of it made it to, made it my friend and some of it didn't. But for the most part, we had to say exactly what was written. It wasn't playing with that.
And I was like, Tracy Morgan.
It's a ride. Every day we're singing. It's not a bad day on set because depending on who you hang with at that moment or scene that you're in, you either singing or talking garbage to each other. It was just hilarious the whole time.
Did you ever ruin a take where he like made you laugh so hard you're like, okay, wait, he made me that take again?
A few times, but the pop that's time is money, so you can't play around too much. And then depending on who's on set, like if Alec Baldwin was there, there ain't no playing around.
Very true.
Yeah, we gotta do
You gotta
it.
get that trunk scene though.
And that's not in a bad way though. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way.
Did all you guys, every press representative get at least one question?
Can I get one question?
You can get one, that's the last one.
Yeah. This is one for Chester. I'm just wondering, did you imagine like with Stranger Things, like did you imagine it to be like as good as it was, like being part of this culture?
That's a question I get asked a lot, and the thing is I don't think anybody plans for the way that it turned out. You know, I'm just glad that people like you guys watched the show, and it's amazing. It's an amazing experience. And I had a feeling, and the feeling was that I knew from the very beginning of the table read that everybody loved the project. And I mean, I guess all of you guys here know, when everybody involved really loves the project and is passionate, there's no way you're gonna fail. Because you make good work. And that's the reason why we do this. We love making good work, and I'm just very fortunate to be able to be part of the story that, you know, has opened a lot of imaginations for a lot of people. So no, I didn't expect it, but I'm sure glad it did. Oh, I can't say it. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Everyone else has to leave except for Jess, Steve, and Johnny. Their panel is going on right now. Everyone else, if you want to talk to them, they'll be downstairs. A big round of applause. see if you can interview them across the green. They wanted to do this in press, but then so go back there and ask them if they have some trainers. All right, if you guys are ready, we're going to start their panel. Sorry we had to cut into it for that press event, but we had to do that really quick.
Hello? Are you guys ready for this? I'm sorry you had to sit through all that. Now you can ask us sex questions.
Careful.
Yeah.
Hey, moms, get your fingers ready to put
Yes, anyone that has kids, Jess is on this panel.
Jess or
So
no is on
you
stage.
said you don't want them to hear. I see you right there, yeah. Be careful, I'm just warning you. All right.
It's gonna be good.
Now, this is about creating characters, or you can ask anything about what these guys do. This is for you. So have questions, otherwise we're gonna leave. You were first, man, right there. Yep.
So my question is for Steve, but this is for you. What I noticed, Steve, is that you actually, your voice is noticeable. Everyone knows Steve Blumen's voice is the character.
Thank you.
But even when you have like a noticeable voice, like how can you do it? Like how do you like change that to make a new character? Like how do you?
It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's quite often I get hired for that one voice. The challenge is to audition your butt off, really, and until they hear the full range, and they allow you to try something else. So, but doing what we do, and especially what Jess and I do, we do a lot of different characters. There's some people who specialize in maybe 3 or 4 different voices, and that's kind of their range, and varying degrees within that. But we go all over the place, and that's what's kept us working all these years. So that has to become an automatic process. We have to be able to look at a drawing of a character or get a one-line description of a character and automatically have something come to mind. And it's just muscle memory in the vocal cords that as soon as you see, a little animated digital dinosaur, you gotta go up here and do it. So
That's the goal.
that's what happened.
That's it, man.
Good job. And what's funny, actually, I want to add, you guys do that.
Where you have the character.
You have the character, and then you put the voice to it. But Johnny, on the other side of it, you're creating the voices.
Yeah.
People put the character. The character came out.
Put an image to it, it creates
I
amazing.
thought that it's like almost unless I'm wrong, it's almost the reverse process.
No, actually, it's true. My characters are all based on people I've known in my life, growing up with. And as a young boy, I was able to take those voices, and I said it in when I was here yesterday, I was able to take those voices and realize that my mother was insane. And my father, I grew up in a house, I'm the oldest of 5 children, and I grew up in a house that I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I was able to recognize at the age of 5 that this was comedy gold in this house. So, and that's how it, came up with Frank Rizzo and Sal Rosenberg. Sal Rosenberg, I'm actually doing my mother's voice when I do Sal. So and the characters, that's how they came about. And that's pretty much all my characters are based on real people, just exaggerated versions. So that, that's,
I always say a lot of the time, man, that when you're developing characters and stuff, Johnny was wise to base them on people that you really know because that makes them real from the get-go. But when you know you have a character in the palm of your hand, you got it down, is when you can have a conversation as that character anytime with no script and know what they're going to say. You don't sit there and go, oh, what would he say to this? Because it's like when you do a character for animation, for instance, you can't just know what they sound like when they're in one mood, because what do they sound like when they're sad or pissed off or angry or tired? You got to be able to cover all that. So that was one of the great things about what you did on those calls and what we do when we improv at sessions is you're basically just, they're throwing balls at you and you got to catch it no matter what it is. Because if you hesitate, if you're having a conversation with fill in the blank, you wouldn't ask them the question how they would do it. Right. You got to come back with it, So it's just about knowing your character, and in your case, you know those people.
Right, and I find too, it's really wild. Like, I've always done this even when I was young. I could be driving down the road, and next thing, I don't even. It's almost not. I'm not conscious if I'm verbalizing some character that I said, man, that's a good one. So I got to pull out my phone, and like you just said, to me, it's as real as somebody sitting next to me.
Right.
So I got to pull out my phone, and a lot of times I've actually forgotten where I had my tongue and the way I have. So now I record it all the time, and even then it's kind of hard to get back to that spot in your throat or whatever.
I used to record him all the time, and then he sued me, so I had to stop. I had hidden recording devices all over. No, you know what? That's actually really, really true. It's like sometimes you get voices from weird ways, man. This is a true story. One time I landed in LAX, and I was going to a session to do a cartoon, and there was this guy at the luggage carousel, and he's there with his family, and they were all going to Disney World. They all had mouse ears and stuff. And he's talking to his wife. He goes, "Sharon, honey, get the bag. It's over there. Hey, get that bag, honey. This one, you're missing it. Kids, get over here." You know, he's talking to his family, right? So I go to my session, and I play my usual character, and they go, "Hey, Jess, on page 16, can you do a cop?" And I go, "All right." So we're going along, and I say, "What does the cop look like?" They go, "He's kind of a bigger guy. He's balding. He's got a mustache, and he's, you know, yelling orders." And I just went, "Hey, guys, get over there. We got the precinct. We're going to move this. We're going to do that." And it's like, I wonder if that guy knew that he ended up on a cartoon. You know, so you guys can come over to our booth. So if you got stupid voices, let me record it, and I'll use it.
All right. Questions? Hands? Right here. You were first.
Hi. For all of you, I guess, how much of yourself goes into each of these characters? I know that you kind of have to make them who they are, but how much do they become a part of you?
He's not used to working with a microphone.
I don't know how it's, which end do I go?
Strangely familiar.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
No, I think we become part of them as much as they become part of us. I think the process of us creating the character from scratch, we have to invest something of us in there. There has to be a part of our psyche that we haven't expressed or we don't get to express in our daily life, especially if it's some horrific character. You know, we can't go around ripping people's spines out. Well, you can.
Yeah, but you have.
I have, yeah. But you know, we can do that in the context of a video game.
Sure.
And then sometimes after the fact, those characters, they all become registered in memory, and I feel like that those characters do inhabit me in certain ways, especially because I grew up as a bullied, overweight, insecure little boy, and when I'm playing these badass characters, I try to bring that into my real life just as a matter of confidence, because I was afraid all the time of everything and everyone, what I perceived everyone to be thinking of me. And with those tools, I can actually feel a little bit better about myself as I wander through the world.
Now, you know, an alternate way of looking at that that's kind of interesting is that, you know, one of the groovy things about doing animation, right, is that you can become, you're only limited, you're not limited at all by this, right? Because if I audition to be in something, I can only be Jesus or a pirate or a rock star. That's it. Okay. But when I do animation, man,
all three.
Exactly. Yeah. If I do a cartoon, I can play the dad and the son and the dog all at the same time with no costume change in 15 minutes and get paid 3 times. It's pretty good. You see what I'm saying? So you're only limited by that. As far as finding commonalities, you know, my first big series that I did was Animaniacs, and when I got that, I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, it's very good. You're very smart. Thanks so much. Anyway, when I got that, I was like, now what do I have in common with this character? Because I was trying to find a common thread. No pants. And I went, that's it. That's it. Because if I had my way, I would never wear pants. You know, yeah. But so
I can verify that.
Yeah, you can always find a common thread. You know, Johnny's just looking at his crazy family and saying, I'll do that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and again, it's part of the character, how you in it. Like, you know, even though you know you're doing, I think what I led to my characters is my sense of humor.
Yeah.
So the voices and stuff, that's one aspect, but then the other aspect is how you move with it. You know,
That's what I'm saying.
so it's pretty interesting.
Totally. These are good questions.
I still want to play Rockstar Jesus action.
This is it, man.
So my question is, I guess, for all 3 of you gentlemen, and how often do you find yourself coming out with your characters' voices accidentally, like you're at the supermarket or at the doctor's office and say, oh crap, I just said it like that?
That's a good question, man.
I can say for me, I do it like in the shower, all the time.
He does, that's true, yes.
My daughter.
He does.
Stop it, you. My daughters, like people say, man, your dad, he does all these voices, and my daughter's looking at me like, Jesus Christ, we know. And so it's funny, but yeah, I do, like I said, and it's like almost not conscious.
Yeah.
Like I said, driving or just walk around and a character just starts coming out.
Yeah.
But it's a blast. But I guess it's something that just the wheels turn always, you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for me, I mean, it doesn't really happen, like accidentally, like slipping out at the wrong moment. Although I'll tell you something, like there have been moments, with girls, and they'll go, "Hey, I really dig it when you talk like so and so." So at an inappropriate moment, we'll be fooling around, and she'll go say something like Roger Rabbit, and I go, "Oh Jesus, this is fantastic!" Whatever. If it makes somebody happy, see, it makes people happy. But I'll tell you a funny story. It's a segue story. Did you guys see that? I Know That Voice movie. Didn't you guys see that? Yeah. It's a really good movie about voiceover, and I told this story, and I'll make it brief, but it still tells a great little anecdote. One of the things I like best about what we do is that you can go to the supermarket and be standing next to somebody. He can stand next to somebody wearing a Wolverine shirt, and they have no idea that they're buying candy next to Wolverine. You know what I mean? It's a cool thing. It's like having a secret identity. Well, years ago, my grandfather passed away, and my mom, God rest her soul, she loved my grandpa, so did I. So I said, I'm going to fly to Florida and hang out with you. I'm going to take you to Disney World, right? So I took my mom to Disney World just to have a nice day. We're having a good time. Sweetest woman in the world. And we're online, and there's this kid in an Animaniacs shirt, like the one Faye's wearing right there. And I see this kid online, and he's just this little boy. He's like 9 years old. And my mom goes, "Oh, you have to say something. You have to tell him." I go, "No, Mom, I don't want to freaking tell him." She goes, "Oh, he's bored. He's so adorable. Just go tell him." Oh, for God's sakes, So the kid comes up next to me in the line, and I go, "Hey, how you doing, man?" And he goes, "Yeah." He kind of looks at me like, "Who the hell are you, dude?" Right? And I go, "You like the Animaniacs?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Who's your favorite one?" And he goes, "Wacko, why?" And he's looking at me like I'm a child molester or something. And I go, and not until they're 18. But I go, "Listen, dude." I go, "No, man, seriously." I go, "It's funny you say that." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, because I do his voice, right?" And so this kid looks at me for like 3 seconds, then he goes, "So what? I do it too." And I go, "Oh, no, dude, no, seriously. I mean, I do it on the show, though. That's me." And he goes, "No, it's not." Right? And my mom's behind me going, I'm so sorry. And I go, "No, it is really, dude." And he goes, "They record that in California." So now I take out my driver's license, right? And I go, "Look, California." I'm like proving myself this little prick. And I go, "Look, dude, it says California." And he goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Yeah, you live in California. You have to be the voice of Wacko." Right? And I go, wait. I go, "Look at this, dude." And I had my business card at the time because I was so excited. I just got into voiceover. Had a picture of me with Wacko, right? And I said, "Look, my business card, dude." He goes, "Oh, okay. You have a picture of you and Wacko. You have to do his voice." Right? And I go, "What's it going to take for me to convince you that I do it, dude?" And he goes, "Let me hear you say something." And dude, I never get nervous about anything. And now I was scared shitless because of this little prick. And I go, "Well, I just want to say it's great to see you here, and I hope you're having a great time at Disney World, right?" And he looks at me and he goes, "You don't even sound like it." Right? Yeah. And I go, "Well, let me hear you do it," right? And he goes, "Hello, this," and I go, "Yeah, you do it better than me." And I was like, my mom's like, I'll never ask you to do that again." And the funny part is, he grew up to be Justin Bieber, dude. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. I'm sorry. That last part I made up. The rest of it's totally true.
The voices do come out, though.
Yeah.
They come out sort of accidentally. I live with Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. She's my girlfriend. She's here at the con. You gotta go see her. And I'll come home sometimes, and I just can't help it. We just fall into it sometimes. So I'll walk in the door and I'll say, "Hey, honey, how are you? Just have a nice day." And she'll come back and she'll go, "No, I've had a terrible day. Stop it." And she does these insane impressions, and I just have to hang my head. I can't help it though.
That's cute. Alex.
I have a question for Steve. So, you do the voice of Wolverine, and like, how much Wolverine's obviously such a huge character. You have the Hugh Jackman portrayals, the old person portrayals. Like, how much of that, or does any of that even like color how you would do it, how you do a voice? Like, are there any other big famous portrayals of any characters?
I don't care about what anybody else does, Bob. No, the way I work, I've always been an organic actor, and so when I read comic books as a kid, my first job was working in a comic book store. My grandfather owned this giant, beautiful bookstore in Hollywood. My uncle ran the comic book department. So my first job at 12 years old was sorting comics. And as a lot of us do when we're reading comics, you imagine that voice in your head. Wolverine came on a little bit later because I'm a really old dude. But the first time I saw Wolverine's face, that voice came out in my head. And then when I had the opportunity to audition for it, I just did what came out in my head, and they happened to agree with me. It was lucky. It was lucky and simple as that. Thank God. Great question. No, I think a lot of us get hired for some specific attribute to our natural speaking voice. I think that's the baseline. And then often, like on video games, for example, I'll get hired for my natural speaking voice. And then we'll have two other ancillary characters that we have to play by contract that could be something completely different. Everybody knows what they're getting when they're hiring us. They've heard our auditions, or we've auditioned specifically for those characters. So they have that in mind when they bring us on board. So there's never a legal issue unless I go and work on something like Animaniacs as Tom from Toonami. Then it's a problem, which just wouldn't work. Yeah. So, yeah, that's never a legal issue for us. That's handled long before we walk into the booth.
You project yourself. Yeah, you.
Well, that's more of a scripting question. So how often do you get to create direction, like a story within the performance, getting notes from the director and having to shit almost like start seeing.
You create your own, right?
Yeah, I create my own characters.
So everything you do is that.
Not necessarily. On Family Guy, back in the day when it first started, you know, Seth MacFarlane was in every session. He would religiously, never missed. About 5 years ago, that all ended, where he was no longer. I mean, he never missed a single session in my headphones or in LA when I was there. But Seth would say, you know, Johnny, you got the idea. You know, just do your thing. Because he loved Sal, he loved all my characters. So, and he was adamant about having me part of that show. Yeah. So he wanted me to do my thing. But the script is there. But, you know, I could throw a lot of this and a little of that. And one day I actually said, I forget which character I was even doing. I said, you know, something about, you know, give him a good gift to the old, good kick to the old gift bag. And Seth MacFarlane, everybody in the cans are all going, Johnny, I'm not even going to ask you what the heck. And it's just, it's typical Jerky Boys slang, you know, that just fires off. Yeah, but for the most part, though, with the scripted stuff, you kind of gotta, you know, but, you know, a little bit of liberty, you know?
With me, this is kind of funny, man. If you guys ever work in animation, if you ever do voiceover, the way they typically do it, okay, is they'll have you give them three. They want three, they'll have you do 3 in a row, right? So for myself, when I get 3 in a row, like there's this one actor, his name was Eddie Deason. You remember Grease, the movie Grease? He played Eugene. He was the geeky. Oh my God, I know. It's this guy. He knows like this. And I did a spot with him for Taco Bell, and I thought it was so funny because the line was, "Oh my God, Doc, what are we gonna do?" That was his line. So they go, "Eddie, give us 3 in a row," right? So he goes, "Oh my God, Doc, what are we gonna do? Oh my God, Doc, what are we gonna do? Oh my God, Doc, what are we gonna do?" And it's like the whole point of doing 3 in a row is to do 3 different things, because if they want the same thing, they just record it once, right? So for me, when I do 3 in a row, I generally say the first one, and Steve and I work together now on this show, and he'll tell you that this is true. I do the first one pretty much as written. Then the second one, I'll change it a little bit. And the third one, I'll do something completely not in the script, because that I hope is funny. And a lot of the time they end up using that, but this way you give them 3 different choices. And usually the smart shows, if you give them something that's better than what's on the page, they will use it.
Yeah, we always have to give them what they're asking for initially. But yeah, Jess and I do that a lot, actually. We'll actually write stuff to continue a scene.
Yeah, you just gotta tell each other. We'll give each other room, because we're on this Wizard of Oz thing that's coming to Cartoon Network. I can talk about it now. No, we can't. We can talk about it. Yes! They told us we can talk about it. Yeah, they're bringing back, dude, they're bringing back the Wizard of Oz, just like the movie. It's really, really badass. And in addition to being the Cowardly Lion, me and Steve are these 2-winged monkeys, and we're like idiots. We're totally stupid, and it's like Abbott and Costello, so we get to play together a lot, which is one of my favorite things about doing that show. So yeah, it's great. We make up a lot of stuff.
We do.
All right, who's up?
Tyrannos, you, all the way in the back, yeah.
That guy's talented.
Project.
For Johnny, Jess, and Steve, each one of your characters has a very pivotal point in my life. And for Johnny, Saul Roseburg was there when my grandfather passed away. We were very close. Just a comment that Saul's glasses were the one that comes to mind. It made me laugh and do think about how much pain I was in. Jess, with the State of the Capitals, helped me pass my social studies class.
Me too. God bless you.
And Steve, if it wasn't for you and wasting Skype, I would have never known about the Chemical 43 and end up owning not 1 but 2.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
See, that's, people ask us sometimes, I'm sure they ask these guys, I know they ask me this, why do you do these things? That's why. That's exactly why.
Exactly.
Okay, seriously. And another big part of it is because, speaking again for myself, but I'm sure I speak for my friends here, it's really awesome not only to get a chance to meet people who like what your work, but to maybe find out about theirs and give them some encouragement, I heard a beautiful definition of the word encourage. What it literally means is to put courage in. Okay, and sometimes we all need to have some courage put in, right? And you, dude, you're like an amazing artist. That guy gave me a wood carving that's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm gonna hang it up in my home with pride. Your name's Ed, right? Yeah, and it's like, it was fantastic, and there's a great artist in the front row, and there's some great people who do voices and stuff like that. And so it's so cool to meet you guys and say, listen, man, whatever the dream that's in your heart is, if you buy into the lie that you can't have it because, there's so many people trying, I could never do that. Every one of us did it. We're idiots, dude. Seriously speaking, especially Steve. And so, because me and Johnny were not that stupid. But it's like if we could do this, if we could make something like this happen, then what in the world? Why in the world couldn't you do it?
I can't even tie my shoes. Look, I have
See,
slippers.
he's like, one day I'm gonna learn to tie them, but he's not ever gonna do it. He's never gonna do it. So you know what I'm saying? So thank you for that, man, because that's freaking awesome and it means the world to us. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you as well. He did a most amazing hand-carved Saul Rosenberg, and it was one of the most amazing, beautiful things. And it's like I said, it's just thank you so much for that.
He gave me a beautiful spike in iron. Not to encourage anybody to give us anything because it's hard to take it home. But thank you so much for that. And
it's awesome.
And your words mean the world to us. Is when we're doing a lot of these projects, we have no idea if anybody's going to see them. Yeah. And when we come out and travel around the world, we talk to you guys and we hear your stories. I don't know about you guys, but it's changed me on a cellular level.
Oh, me too.
It's actually given me purpose. I feel like my dad was a doctor, wanted me to go into medicine. And I thought, okay, that's something of value. Being a voice actor, I'm just being an idiot with a microphone. Yeah, but I like what I do. It's cool. And then years later, we hear stories like this, and it's like, oh.
Dude, because if at the end of the day, any day, you can look back on what you did in those 24 hours and think, I made somebody happy. That's a good day. And this guy, seriously, before I ever met him, man, I got turned on to his stuff by the guys in Poison who used to love, you're the jerky boys. And me and my little brother laughed for hours at your stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I'm of a common bond with you guys because we all love the same stuff, man. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and before we walked on the stage today, I've known your work for years, and I didn't know your face.
Decades.
And we come to these conventions and we meet some of our heroes here, and this is amazing.
It's amazing.
And they turn out to be good guys.
I know.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I got two of your hands up. You're first, you're next.
Do the ladies first.
No, it's a guy.
Oh.
Oh, then screw him, dude. Go. I don't even know who it is.
How you doing? I'm a friend of Johnny's, by the way.
Pete.
Hey, Pete.
The gentleman on the right, I came in late. He's pretty quiet. You guys really good?
He's Steven Seagal, star of many 80s action films.
Neil cut you.
I'm just here, kind of coordinating, herding the cats. That's my job.
Yes, he's a cat herder.
This is Jeff Zanini. He's the reason we're here.
Yeah, he is. He's the agent to all of us guys and so many more. So yeah. If it wasn't for him, we never would have got to meet you guys. So that's.
You guys wanted to meet them, so I brought them for you.
And I gotta tell you, I like Jeff way more now than he was when he was a woman. He was a beautiful woman, but now I'm proud that he's decided to be who he is, and you look great, man. Yeah.
Well, Jeff has also created something called Twisted Tunes.
Yeah. Heard of that? Oh, you gotta look at it online. Tell him about that. Johnny would be great at that, dude.
Yeah, I can't wait to get Johnny on that panel. We read movie scripts. Are some of you familiar with it? We do Twisted Tunes. Go on YouTube, Twisted Tunes, T-O-O-N-Z, Tunes. And watch it. We take movie scripts that you all know and love, and we just completely ruin them in a good way. And these guys do voices and impressions, and you'll hear Winnie the Pooh as Darth Vader and Christopher Walken as R2-D2, and then you'll hear Steve as Filthy Elmo narrating.
Filthy Elmo, dude. Steve, say one thing as Filthy Elmo real quick, dude. Just watch it.
Wait a minute. Is there anyone here under 12?
Yeah, of course there is, but they're gonna hear it eventually.
Block your ears right now.
I'm only 10.
Elmo love you best. Elmo has hand up butt all day long.
That's the clean version. It gets a lot dirtier than that, so you have to check them with Twisted Tunes.
Cheshire now has hand up Elmo's butt like that.
truly was.
Okay, so this is for Steve. Question is thank you. Well, thank you. I want to say thank you for voicing Tom. I love you and Tsunami. Like every time I got out of school.
Thanks, man. Apologize to your parents for me.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Totally worth it.
For like Spike, love how bebop today, and my favorite grunt.
Thanks, Shepard.
I got how did you get the voices like Spike to like Tom to grunt?
It was the only superpower I had because I was a short, fat, insecure little boy, and that was my voice dropped when I was about 13 years old, and I used it literally to stay alive. So I just was able to turn that into something usable, and it was all by accident. All of it was by accident. So I auditioned like everybody else and just got lucky. Pardon me? Oh, I hate shoes. They're like children. You know, if you have to drop one of your children off a cliff and you have like 3 of them, which one do you choose? That's a terrible analogy, but you know. It's muscle memory after a while. You know, you do this for 30 years and you know where that person is in the voice. That was one of the things that used to scare me the most when I was starting out, was if I had come up with a character, I didn't know if I could reproduce it, because I didn't know what it felt like in there. But now, I can start with Orochimaru.
And go to Guillermo without even thinking about it, because you have to.
You know, you walk into that booth and they expect you to be able to do that. If you can't, they're going to hire somebody else. So that's the gig. Thanks.
You know what's funny about that? She's asking if there's a favorite type of character we get to voice. That ties back into the thing about you're only limited by what you can do with your voice, you know? So I think all of us probably love it when we get to just be all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? As opposed to, like I said, typecasting. You know, each one of the 3 of us, if we were trying to be in an on-camera movie, again, I'd be the rock star Jesus pirate, and these guys, I don't know what they'll, but you know, but with voiceover, you can embody anything that you want, you know, and a really cool thing that I think about sometimes, and I don't know if this has occurred to you, but I'm sure it will, is that, you know, like I get a lot of you guys coming up saying, you were my childhood, and that's a beautiful thing to hear. You know, first of all, because I can't believe your parents let me in your house. Second of all, because it's a really special thing to be part of somebody's, that time of their life, because you always look back on it so fondly with so much love, right? Well, the cool thing about animation, again, is that you're not limited when you start to get older, whatever, you're not limited by the choices unless your voice can't do them anymore, right? And it's like right now, I'm on these shows, Doc McStuffins and Sophia the First, they're for little kids, right? And they're both hugely popular. So if in 20 years from now, I'm still doing cons, there are going to be people coming up going, hey man, I grew up with Doc McStuffins, I grew up with Sophia the First. So the thing about being versatile and being able to cover a lot of characters is you're impacting the next 5 years of people, and the next 5 years of people, and the next, and that's pretty awesome.
You know, I think we're all happy to do anything pretty much, whether it's brooding or happy or creatures, whatever we're hired for, we get to do what we love to do.
Yep.
Some days it feels better than others. You know, if I'm stuck in traffic, in LA traffic, and I get to go, it's coming! You know, sometimes you get to spend some of that evil energy so you don't take it out on the people at home.
And then he shows up at a gig with me and he's like, oh no, my voice, what am I gonna do? I'm in trouble, you know.
But then you get to work on things like Dr. McStuffins. I've got to do a few of those too, and it's the greatest thing, because when my kids were little, I was doing nothing but evil characters. They couldn't watch anything that I worked on. And so to get to go in and work on something like that has really great moral values and great stories and things that are kid friendly that wouldn't warp my children, it's nice to be able to do that too.
People ask me all the time, with the Jersey Boys characters, which are your favorite ones to do? Because you can go from anywhere from Rosine, the Puerto Rican transvestite, to big old badass Bob the cattle rustler. And they couldn't be completely different, so different. And I tell people all the time, probably my favorite character to do, although it's not in as much as it used to be, was my Jack Torrance character. I love. For many, many years, that was my favorite character to do and to get into. And because it was such a wonderful place for me to just have fun, you know? And when I did Frank Rizzo, it couldn't be, that's just basically my speaking voice amped up and with a lot of anger. And Sal Roseman, you know, it's like, you can't, but I have to say, my favorite one to do, I think, was Jack Torrance and big old badass Bob the Cattle Rustler. Those two characters are just insane. You know?
Refresh my memory, Jack Torrance.
Oh, stop it. Jack Torrance, classic.
Jeff. Yeah. My wife has been trying to see your shoes for this entire thing and keeps going on about it. Can she see your shoes so she can stop talking
Yeah, you got kick-ass pants on, too.
And she needs the pants, too, so.
Thank you very much. I guess. There you go. I'll give Neil that. Never mind. Next question right there behind you.
Okay, stupid question. What is your take on normal? I need to know this from all of y'all.
Take on normal?
Like, is normal just boring and bland while being weird, just all the ways and more fun?
Dude, I got two things to say. First of all, you know the best thing about Comic-Cons, man? The best thing about Comic-Cons is, I live in LA, which is the pretentious capital of the world, right? And it's like, you guys have all seen footage, if you haven't actually been there, of nightclubs, right? Where there's the velvet rope, and the cool people get to go past the velvet rope, and the uncool people stay on the other side of the velvet rope. Comic-Cons are great, because they're like the hugest nightclub in town, and they're made up of all the misfits who come together and congregate and become one big family, right? And how awesome is that, right? And everybody belongs, and everybody supports each other, everybody loves each other, and I think that's really cool. And as far as being normal, what's great, man, is I talk to kids sometimes, and like they'll say, how come you dress like that? How come you have your hair like that? Or whatever. And I go, well, think of it this way, man. If everybody else is already doing the same thing, then they don't need me to do it. And I would always rather stand out than stand back. So why wouldn't you want to do the same thing? So normal is whatever you think it is, man. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, if nobody else digs it, then screw them, because you be who you are. You know what I'm saying?
I never felt like I fit in when I was younger, and I never felt normal. And so
you feel normal now, man.
Yeah, thank you. I feel a little better than normal right now. But yeah, and so I actually embraced that sense of not belonging, and to create something unique. Embrace your weirdness.
That's who you are, man.
Hell yeah.
That's why everybody loves about it.
There's literally one of each of us, and embrace that and wear it proudly.
And it's only with trying to blend in and be everybody else. Screw that, dude. Be who you be, your weirdness.
Yeah.
It's all just one-sided and boring, and then everybody else here.
Exactly.
Fly that freight flag.
All right, last one.
Well, listen, hey, I want to say something real quick then, if it's the last one. Are we leaving after this? We're going to sign.
We're going to make the sign for about a half hour, 40 minutes, so if you want to come over, come quick.
That's it. You can ask us anything else you didn't get to ask us here, and I want you to know also.
We're
here tomorrow. We're here until like next month. So listen, just like come by and see us and hang out. You can ask us. Plus, there's more panels tomorrow. We're doing, and I got a solo Q&A that's definitely going to be R-rated, so you don't want to bring the kids. But yeah, so if we don't get your question now, we'll get it later. Anyway, what's the last one? Steve.
Yes. I work as a teacher at a boys' school, and myself and one other teacher were running to the greatest teachers in the school.
Yeah, good. Crush it, dude.
I do that my certified fly. You're so weird. I'm like,
yeah.
I appreciate it. So the question I have is, have you ever come up with your own original characters, and have those characters ever been made into reality?
Everyone is.
Yeah, my character. Yeah, but I'm sure
Yeah, well, you know what it is, dude, is that what's really cool, and I mean, I know I speak for all of us for sure, is that, sometimes you walk into an audition, it's really kind of a beautiful thing, man, you walk in and you don't know what you're going to do, and you don't know what they want to hear. And they'll go, okay, so the guy's like this, and he's like this, and he's like this, and here's what he looks like, and he's sort of like a cross between this and this and this, and you take all these ingredients, and you start talking, and you're like, I've never done that voice before, man. That's a whole new thing. The way I think of it is that I got this giant box of crayons in my head, and I don't know which one I'm going to color with, and sometimes it So it's like inventing stuff. It's like having a laboratory in here, but without the meth.
I just started playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time.
Oh my
And Critical Role fans here? You guys fans of Critical Role? Right, so inspired by Critical Role, it's a bunch of voice actors and Logic, the rap artist, and we're all sitting together playing Dungeons and Dragons at our house, and I was able to create my own character in that context. And we're probably going to do something with it later on. We're probably going to put it on the internet or something. But I was able to take a character that I worked with on a game called Dragon Age. Dwarf, Auburn, who is drunk perpetually. And I created my own character based on that. He used to call people ass chaps. That was just one of his things.
That's a Johnny word.
So I created a new character named Azure Chaps. And I got to put all of my own ingredients into that. I got to choose his hairstyle, and that he had a tail and a tattoo on half of his face, and create a whole backstory for him. And he creates his own mushroom male that's sometimes hallucinogenic. So to get to create something from scratch like that was a new experience for me. It's really fun. We do get to do that in the context of these shows, but in the end, it's really somebody else's project that we're bringing our take to, and that's the reason we're hired, and that's wonderful. But to create your own character from scratch, that's a unique, really interesting thing to do, and there's a certain sense of responsibility that comes with that. Because once you make those choices, that's canon for that character. That's what it becomes.
And last thing I'll say, that's kind of funny is that, and I never really thought of this before, but it's like when you create a character, right, like when you create a voice that maybe hasn't existed before, and you do it on a project, you no longer own that voice. Isn't it weird? It's like they own that voice. And furthermore, if for whatever reason you guys come to a parting of the ways and like they don't want to give you enough money or whatever, you're just tired of it, they'll find somebody to imitate you. And it's freaking weird. It's like the most bizarre thing in the world. I mean, Johnny, when he was approached to do Family Guy, tell him that thing about Saul.
Yeah, Seth actually wanted my character, Saul Rosenberg, which is a Jerky Boy character, for Family Guy.
Do the voice just for a second, dude.
Yeah. Hello. Yes, hi. No, but it's funny. But so for Family Guy, for Jerky Boy, Saul Rosenberg is much more laid back. Like, should I bring all my shoes and my glasses so I have them? And then for Family Guy, I said, well, I'm not going to give you Saul Rosenberg.
Because they would have owned it.
They would have owned it. They would have taken my character, Saul Rosenberg, that I was doing for years, and that character's gone and not owned by me anymore. Right. So I said, let's do something else. We'll create his long-lost cousin, and that's when I came up with Mort Goldman, who's more amped up. Like, hey, why don't you go crawl into a little ass ball, you stupid little bastard, you. And so everybody still knew that that's Johnny doing that. That sounds like Saul, right? Like a long-lost cousin. Yeah, you have to. Because they'll own it.
Yeah, most of what we do, we steal from everybody else anyway.
Oh, completely, man.
Steal from you all the time.
All right. Guys, come and say hi to them downstairs.
Please, man.
Big round of applause.
Thank you, guys.